not the Russians have the capability and equipment, et cetera, to continue the attack in the Donbass, they are attacking in the Donbass right now. Their progress is slow. It's a war of attrition. They're taking heavy casualties. Their leadership and morale is not great, and they're struggling mightily. However, they do have numbers, and as you know, President Putin did a call-up of several 100,000, and those folks have been arriving on the battlefield. So they do have numbers, and whether or not they're successful in pressing the fight, that remains to be seen. But that fight has been going on, and it's a slow, grinding battle of attrition in that general area. For the Ukrainians, I don't want to project forward what the Ukrainians may or may not do. As you know from this particular conference here, we are plussing up with a significant amount of capabilities with ground maneuver, artillery, et cetera. What they do with that, that'll be up to the Ukrainians in the coming weeks and months.
We have time for one more. Let's go to Marcus Price, ARD Television.
Thank you very much. One question to Secretary Austin about the stance of the U.S. when it comes to delivery of fighter jets. And President Biden said no to the delivery of F-16, also earlier in the conflict when Poland offered to deliver MiG-29 via Ramstein to Ukraine. I think the U.S. stopped it. Has this position evolved? Do you encourage countries to do so if they want to, or do you assess the risk is too high? So what is the U.S. position on other countries delivering fighter jets? And to Chairman Milley, the Russian offensive we're seeing, what do you see so far? Is this very serious? Is it different than what we saw in the past? And do you have any intelligence whether we are going to see another attempt of the Russian forces to capture Kiev? Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. For the record, with respect to any kind of aircraft being provided by Poland, the United States never stopped Poland from providing anything. A decision to provide something that's the decision made. That will be a decision made by the leadership of that country. That's certainly not something that we can or will dictate. In terms of whether or not we're going to provide F-16s, as I said earlier, I don't have any announcements to make, and I don't have anything to add to what our president said earlier. So, and I'll just leave it at that. So.
And Marcus, on the issue of the Russian offensive, this offensive that you see ongoing right now in the generally in the Bakhmut area, from Kharkiv all the way down to Kyrgyzstan, the front line is quite stable, even though very violent, a lot of fighting. It's relatively stable. Most of the dynamic movement back and forth is generally in the vicinity of Bakhmut. The Ukrainians are holding. They're fighting the defense. The Russians, primarily the Wagner Group, are attacking. But there's what I would describe it as is a very significant grinding battle of attrition with very high casualties, especially on the Russian side. There's no fancy arts of maneuver going on here. This is frontal attacks, wave attacks, lots of artillery with extremely high levels of casualties in that particular area. And how long that will last is difficult to say, actually. It's been going on for weeks, and I think it'll continue to go on until either the Russians culminate. I don't think the Ukrainians will just collapse or fold. I think they're going to continue to fight. So that's a battle worth that we're paying attention to very, very closely and making sure that the Ukrainians have the capability to continue to defend. As far as Kyiv, I'm not going to go into what intelligence we have or don't have. I would just say that right now there's always a potential threat. There's clearly air threats, missile attack threats. Kyiv is the capital, and that was a significant objective early in the war. So I would never discount Russian capabilities to attack Kyiv, but right now we're not seeing any significant indicators and warnings.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have available today. This concludes our press briefing.
That right there was the Department of Defense, several different officials. And actually, I do want to dip in because that Senate hearing, it was classified about the object shot down, is wrapping up. So we are hearing from several different senators and congresspeople. So let's listen in live, raw, and unfiltered.
And the American people need to know more so they'll have more confidence in our national security. As I've said after so many of these briefings, our adversaries often know what we know. We know they know. The American people are the ones who don't know, and they deserve to know more. And so I think that there's a need for greater transparency and more facts to the American people.
Do you think these objects are a threat to...
With these objects, are you concerned about the safety of America?
I am not in any way afraid that we are under a threat of attack or physical harm to our homeland. That's my personal feeling. But the American people need to be reassured with more facts.
When you say that, do you want the Biden administration to... Thank you, sir.
All right, so at this point, the Fox crews and several others are trying to get a hold of just about all of the senators as they are leaving that classified hearing. This is all related to those objects that were shot down, 3 of them over the course of 3 days, and that came days after that Chinese spy balloon was shot down as well, that happening over the Atlantic. We actually were rolling on just some of the other sound that was coming in from those senators, so I do want to play that for you. It's only about a minute or so, but again, just some of those senators reacting after that classified hearing on those objects being shot down.
But this is certainly a very serious conversation. And look, the President of the United States needs to get in front of the American public tonight and explain to them what we know. I'm concerned that they're using this as more fear-mongering, that this administration has used concerns about COVID and what's going on in Ukraine and China, using this all as fear-mongering and using it perhaps to deflect away from some other very major issues going on here, like what's going on with Hunter's laptop. So I really think that this fear-mongering concerns me. We have this mental health epidemic going on across this country, and fear-mongering is exacerbating it. So the president needs to find the courage to get in front of the American public and tell them what he knows. We walk out of a meeting like this and so much of what we've been told is classified, so I'm not going to be able to answer any of your questions now. But the president can get in front of America and tell them firsthand that we're safe, that everybody's going to be okay, that we've got this under control. But America needs a strong leader to step forward.
What is your general answer? Are you satisfied?
All right, so they're pretty brief answers, I would say, not really answering questions, just kind of making statements. This happening after that classified Senate hearing about those objects shot down. But you heard from several senators who said it's all classified, so there isn't much that they can reveal, and that is why they are not answering questions. If we do get any more information about what happened inside of that hearing, you can imagine we'll bring it to you live, raw, and unfiltered right here on Live Now from Fox.